It's a beautiful morning in southern Appalachia. I was about to take a walk around the yard and see what needs to be done today, so I thought I'd take you along with me and show you how our garden's doing so far. We have some rattlesnake beans growing right here. This is the first year that we've ever grown them, so I'm really excited about seeing how they do for us, but they're doing great so far. In the next area of this cattle panel that we have, the purpose of it in the beginning, we have 2 grapevines, one on each side. We only planted them last year, and the late frost this year really got them. They were all leafed out beautiful, and the frost just demolished them. They've got a little bit of growth on each of them though, so they're coming back. It was just that frost got them. But underneath we have in the in-between, just till the grapevines, get established, we won't be able to plant anything else there then. But for now, we've got some turkey crawl beans. Someone sent me the seeds and I've planted them, but only 1 or 2 of them's come up, as you can see. So I'm hoping the rest of them will come up, and I'm excited about trying them too. It'll be the first time we've tried that green bean. This long bed that you can see right here, we built this one last year, so it's a pretty new bed. It's kind of terraced onto the side of the bank. Our hopes are that we'd love to do more, but this is the only one we got done. Anyway, we filled it full of blackberries. This first blackberry was one that we had established in another part of the yard, so we moved it, and then I purchased some, and they're doing pretty good. I'm really pleased, especially with that one on the end and this one in the middle. It's really a lot of growth from last year. The one in between them is just kind of the same size it was when I planted it, so I don't know what that's about. It's funny, this first one, somehow I must have inadvertently brought a hosta with it, so there's a hosta growing under it. I need to move that probably. I also have some candy roasters and Chambers Creek pumpkin planted in this bed. Just 2, just to let them kind of climb around between the blackberries. I don't know how they'll do, but it's hard to resist when you see an open space of ground if you're a gardener. Hard to resist where you want to put something. You just want to put something everywhere you see an empty space. Katie's herb bed's really doing fantastic. It's just beautiful. It's just so much new growth. Her valerian's getting ready to bloom. It just has the loveliest scent when you smell it. Cilantro's going crazy. That actually reseeded itself from last year. I'm pretty much the only one in the family that likes cilantro. Matt likes it a little bit, but I love it. I just get it and put it on in my salads and on pizza and everything. And it's funny, used to, I did not like it. But somehow, how your tastes change over the last couple of years, I've just really love it. I love the taste of cilantro, and I love that it reseeds itself, so that's great. Lemon balm, Katie needs to harvest some of that. And we have some dill coming on. Katie's yarrow plant's just beautiful. It's about to bloom too. And we have some oregano and some basil coming on too. This is my beautiful arch that Matt made me last year. I just can't believe how good the cucumbers and things and melons grew up it. It was just wonderful. So underneath it we have on one side we have some melons planted, and on one side we have some cucumbers planted. We also have a tomato plant. I still have some kale left over from the winter that I just couldn't make myself. It's the last kale of the winter. Make myself pull it up. And then some lettuce actually from last winter too, from last fall. It didn't really do that good during the lettuce didn't. The kale did great. But the lettuce didn't do that good over the winter, but then as soon as the spring, the warmer temps got here, it just started going crazy. So that's kind of cool that I planted it last fall and I'm still eating on it this year, this spring. I made Matt a salad out of the lettuce last night for supper. Another interesting thing we have in this bed that I planted this year for the first time is sorrel. So sorrel is it grows wild in a lot of places, and it may grow wild here, but I don't know where it's at. So I've planted some hoping that I can establish it. So it's like an edible green. It has a lemony taste to it, aftertaste. It reminds me a lot of when you were little. Did you ever chew on I don't remember exactly what it's called, but like a type of grass on the playground or something? I know we did at Martins Creek, and it has like a lemony, almost a sour lemon taste. Maybe we called it sour grass. I don't know what we called it. You probably know, so you can tell me in the comments. Anyway, I've planted some of that. And then another thing I have in this bed, and they're really looking beautiful, but they don't belong here, but I just can't make myself pull them up. But it's jewelweed. I've never had jewelweed growing right up here at my house. All over, down at Granny's, at the creek, at Paul's house, all those different places. It grows really all up my driveway, but never right here at my house in my yard. Well, I have all these jewelweed coming up in my garden, which I shouldn't let them stay there. I'm not going to, I don't guess. But where they come from is last year, Paul was having to do some work down at his house, and he had some extra dirt to get rid of. Well, he was just going to pile it somewhere, and then when I seen it, I was like, oh, it was dirt that was kind of out of the woods there. And so I was like, oh, I want it for my beds that don't have enough dirt in them. So he had had rented a machine, so he brought it up here anyway, a bucket at a time, and he put it in my garden beds, and then we added compost to it and, you know, tilled it in and all that. But I knew that the beds needed to be refreshed from using them for so many years. So that's where those jewelweed come from. I know it was in that dirt that Paul brought me. But maybe I'll leave one of them, or maybe I'll try to transplant one of them over on the bank. I don't know, but I haven't been able to make myself dig them up yet. So this is the first year we've used green stalks. We bought 2 of them, and so far I've really enjoyed them, really liked them. The first one we planted with radishes way back in the early spring with radishes and peas. We ate all the radishes, and I've replanted them. We also planted the peas, and they're just now beginning to bloom, so hopefully shortly we'll have some peas. I planted strawberries in that first one too, and not one strawberry lived, not one. So in this one, a friend shared some of her strawberries with me, and they're doing great. You can see I've got a little red strawberry there, 1 or 2. So I'm hoping that they'll continue to do good in this one, and maybe I can eventually spread them all the way down. She didn't give me but a few plants. And then in the bottom pockets of this one, I've planted lettuce. We eat a lot of salad, so we eat a lot of lettuce. We love kilt lettuce too. But another thing we do with lettuce is it makes a perfect chicken treat. So our chickens love to get fresh lettuce. Along with the green stalks, this year we've used other containers. I noticed over the winter, or last summer, I guess, I was watching one of my friends, Whippoorwill Hollow, Miss Lori, and she used those fabric bags, and they worked really well for her and Mr. Brown. So I thought, well, what the heck, we'll try them. So we bought some of them, and we put potatoes in some of them. We really don't have a big place, a good place to plant potatoes since we quit using Pap's big garden. In those days, we planted potatoes with Pap in it. But so we've got some filled with potatoes. Then for Mother's Day, Katie got me some. She's seen how much I liked those, so she thought, well, I'll get Mama some of those for Mother's Day. Well, she got these gigantic ones. They're huge. But what we did, we ended up lining the side of the greenhouse with those, and we put tomatoes in them. So that'll be interesting to see how they do. We start our tomato plants in the greenhouse, and we always start too many, no matter how hard it seems like we try not to. You just can't resist when it's early in the year and you're so excited about starting those tomato plants. It's just easy to over plant your seedlings. Of course, you never know. Some of them may die or something may happen to them. Then you'll be glad you had those extra ones. But we typically share them with friends. Of course, we give them to Granny. We help her plant some. But this year, since Katie got me those at the perfect time, we've been able to plant more tomatoes than we typically would by using them. So on this long bed, the cattle panels down towards the end, that's where we have our tomatoes. You can see the tomato plants, they're growing, they're doing really good. We've had them planted, I guess, about a week and maybe a week and a half. And then there's an arch on this end near the green stalk there that you can see. And last year I had Malabar spinach. It's the first time I grew it, and I just loved it. And I had it growing all the way over the arch, which turned out to be overkill because it just was so amazing. I had it all the way up until, I think it frosted maybe twice before it killed it. The entire arch was covered with it. It was just beautiful. So this year I planted tomato, because we had so many tomato plants, I planted tomato plants on one side of the arch, but on this other side, the side closest to the green stalks, the Malabar spinach had already started, it had reseeded itself, and it had already started growing. So I have some little Malabar spinach plants there, and then I planted a couple more just to make sure that I had it. We have more tomato plants in this little bed, and we were going to put cattle panel there, but we didn't necessarily get that done. So we just decided, we use these cages for years, so we decided to put these in the tomato cages. All these tomatoes are looking good except one. One of them looks so bad. I think it's pretty much dead. But I do have 1 or 2 left in the greenhouse, so I think I'm gonna give it a day or two, and if it doesn't perk up, which I really don't think it's going to, I'm gonna replace it with one of those. Right below that bed, we have, if you can kind of see the outline of that bed, that's an asparagus bed. An asparagus bed with a lot of weeds in it. It's not really weeds, it's some kind of herb that Corey planted years ago. That was her herb bed to begin with, but she didn't take care of it. So I took it away from her and we planted asparagus in it. But some persistent herb that she planted back then just continues to grow and grow. And I've cleaned it out and cleaned it out, but I need to clean it out again. Maybe eventually I'll get all of it out. Last year we dug up the asparagus. The asparagus bed was probably, I don't know, 6 or 7 years old, I guess, and we eat out of it every spring. But last year, knowing that Corey was done with her herbs and I was going to take over the bed again, we dug the whole thing up and took all we thought, obviously we didn't get all the herbs, I thought we did, but we took all the asparagus up and we divided it, and then we took it apart. It was so rock bound and root bound, no wonder it was all in one end of the bed. But anyway, we got it out and cut them into pieces and then spread the entire bed, spread it out through there. So this year we didn't have as much asparagus, I guess because we disturbed it. We did eat a little bit out of it, but now you can see it's growing. You can see now after asparagus, after you eat it, then the next step is you can see those kind of frilly looking leaves. Those are the ones that come up next, and they have the seeds on them. And asparagus will reseed itself. In one of the first beds I showed you up on the bank, the one we terraced, I noticed last year towards the end of the season in one corner there's an asparagus plant. So somehow either the seeds got in the dirt we used to build that bed, or a bird took a seed up there or something, but I've got one little start up there of asparagus, and hopefully that one will continue in that little corner. It didn't grow any asparagus this year, but it just had the front little frilly leaves that you can see. That's how you know that it's asparagus. We built this little bed last year, and one end of it we put asparagus. We really love asparagus, and we love that it comes back every year. It's a perennial plant. And this other end we put, last year I think I had cucumbers. This year I've got squash and zucchini planted. This is our largest garden area, you can see in the background here. In it we have some more tomatoes. We're crazy about tomatoes, so we have tomatoes. And I didn't really go over what kind of tomato plants we grow, but we love Cherokee Purple, so that's one variety we grow. We grow Mountain Princess every year. That's kind of like a smallish kind of size of red tomato, and they're really good for canning. This year, for the first time, we're growing Juliet tomatoes. That's like a tomato, we would call it, except more of an elongated one. Last year, the John C. Campbell Folk School grew those, and I was just crazy about them, so I'm excited to grow them. Also, another one the Folk School grew that I'm excited about is Sun Gold. So that's like a little orange tomato. I'm excited about that one. We usually grow black cherry tomato. That's always been our favorite, but we didn't plant any this year. We're just going to try those other two varieties because we liked them so much, the ones we ate from the folk school. And Katie got me, let's see, the name of it was Nebraska Wedding. Never tried that one. We're going to try that one. And she also got me a green one, a green tomato, like a Mr. Stripey or something. I've never had good luck with those, but we're going to try them this year and see how they do. In this big bed is also our main bean patch, so this is where our greasy beans are. We've got 2 long rows of them, and that's the ones that we love the most, and we'll can and of course eat fresh, maybe make some leather breeches out of them. We've also got our okra planted here. It's just beginning to come up, and we have cabbage. This is the first year that we've planted cabbage under a protective covering to try to prevent bug infestation. Like the moths, they lay their eggs on your cabbages, and then those worms you see actually are the larvae of what the moth has laid. But this is the first year we've tried that, and so far it is working wonderfully. Wonderful. They look so good under there, and the sunshine can still go through, and the rain can still go through, so that's just worked out wonderful. And they're just beginning now to get to the point where they would produce heads. So if that works out, and they do, that's the only way I'll grow cabbage from now on. In this end of the big garden, you can see we have our bush beans. They're coming up. They're doing really good. All of them except the Yance beans. They're just coming up spotty. They're not coming up like they should. So I don't know if we're going to have to replant them. That's unusual. It has been extremely dry for the past 2 weeks, so maybe they're waiting on a big rain. We've tried to water, but you know, watering just doesn't do what rain does somehow. In this bed is most of our spring things that we planted. We've got kohlrabi, we've got beets that are getting to where they're about ready to harvest. We've got onions we've been eating. We've got radishes we've been eating. The rest of the radishes need to be pulled up, and then something else can be planted in their place. So in this bed, you can see back there in the back, we have our garlic growing. It's pretty amazing that we planted that last fall, still doing good. down there, especially that on the very end, is some we didn't harvest last year. I kind of think of that as crazy, but kind of like my garlic supply. I'll never go out if I leave some every year to just grow and come back. And we harvest the stuff that we plant, but it's kind of like those are almost like ornamental plants. I just leave them. We have some cabbage that I planted for the first time this year, and I don't like it, so I probably won't grow it again. Thankfully the chickens like it though, so it won't go to waste. We also have some lettuces and then a little onion bed where we're going to try to grow. We usually just grow green onions, and if they grow to, like by the end of the summer, if there's some that didn't get eaten and they have any size on them, even though they're pretty small, we dry them and then we use them during the winter. But this year we were really going to try to grow some big bulbed onions, so I don't know how that'll go, but we'll see. I hope you enjoyed walking around the garden with me today. Now I've got that mental checklist to tell me what I need to hopefully get done by the end of the day. Most importantly, I think, is the squash and the zucchinis, getting this last little bit here tilled and getting those planted. We have some planted in another bed, but I don't think that's hardly enough. But I was going to stop here at I forgot to mention the blueberries. We have apple trees. We had 2 apple trees that produced really great for us. Last year we lost one of them. Don't know what happened to it. The other one we really trimmed and cut back to try to prevent whatever disease had killed the other one, so I'm not sure we'll have any apples on it. And then we planted 2 apple trees last year. Of course we're not going to have any fruit on those. But blueberries we've got all throughout the yard in different areas. These are our main ones that go down the driveway. I love blueberries. Blueberries, I think I didn't show you the raspberries either, but I just planted those last year too, so I don't know if I'll have any berries on those this year or not. I used to have raspberries a long time ago, a really nice patch, and something happened to them. I don't know, gradually one year, I don't know if we encroached on them too much where they were at, or if they got some kind of disease, but no raspberries for the last several years, but hopefully the ones I planted last year will take off, and maybe I planted them in a better place too. But I love blueberries and watermelon. Those are my favorite fruits. The blueberries, I do really good at growing them. Watermelons, not so much, but I never give up trying. Every year I plant watermelons, hoping that'll be the year that I have a bumper crop of them. I always manage to grow a few, but I wish I could that they would all do good, and that I could protect them from predators. That one this year I'm gonna work on. Every time I have a watermelon, and it's just perfect, and I'm waiting for just one more day of ripeness or 2 days of ripeness, then something gets it, something eats it. So this year I'm going to see if Matt can't build me some kind of cage to put around them when they get to that stage. If they get to that stage, I'm not going to let something else get them this time. I don't know how that'll work. If you've got any ideas, let me know, and maybe we can try that. But I hope that you'll leave me a comment and tell me about your garden. Are you growing new things this year? Are you excited like I am about the Juliet and the Sun Gold? I'm hoping I can grow them as good as Farmer Teddy did at the folk school. But what are you excited about? This is just the most beautiful time of the year everywhere, not just in Appalachia, but for me, the whole world just comes alive this time of the year. Every time I walk outside, I see another little growth, whether it's just the cilantro's a little bit higher, or a new flower's bloomed, or a bean seed has poked through the ground, or maybe the first little tendril, the first little reach up to try to get the cattle panel to grow on. Those are just such exciting things. It's just one of my favorite times of the year. But as always, mostly I just hope you'll drop back by often as I celebrate Appalachia.